Three crazy male leads who originally fought over the female lead have all become the girls' brothers-in-law. What was originally a dark imprisonment obsession story has now turned into a family-pampered comedy. The crazed magician transformed into a sister-doting maniac. The bloodthirsty tyrant became a comedic uncle. The serious knight captain became an easily blushing romantic, looking at the whales floating in the sky. Liliana's eyes sparkled brightly, as if they contained all the stars in the heavens. Isn't it cool? Of course. If that's the case, then call me Big Brother as thanks. Only then did Liliana realize the spectacular magic had ulterior motives. It's not difficult, try saying it. Casal begged with a doting face, his perfect face shining so bright Liliana couldn't open her eyes. But you're my brother-in-law, and I already have a brother. It doesn't matter, we're family. After saying this, he opened his arms intending to hug, kiss, and lift Liliana high. Frightened, Liliana quickly fled the scene. Seeing Liliana ignore him, Casal fell to his knees crying, "How could you abandon your dear brother?" But halfway through her escape, Liliana accidentally twisted her ankle. Just as she was about to fall to the ground and get a big bump, she found herself being held up in the air with one hand, and this person was her other brother-in-law, Leo. Didn't I say not to run around? It's easy to get hurt that way. Having barely escaped his lecture, Liliana encountered her most disliked brother-in-law. You seem to have gotten a bit shorter. Looking at your fierce little appearance, your actual height doesn't even reach my knee. Angered, Liliana swung her fists at him, but he easily deflected them with one hand. At this moment, a little blonde jumped out to shield Liliana. His small hand directly embraced Liliana's shoulders. With a red face, he pointed at Marius. "We are soulmates, you can't bully her." This little blonde boy named Edgar would always stand up for Liliana when she couldn't escape, and the reason this dark story had such a strange development, though closely related to Liliana's three sisters. More importantly, the female lead died before the story even began. A month ago, Liliana had a high fever. Her little brain was flooded with countless story plots. She realized she was in a dark reverse harem novel. The female lead gained the male lead's affection, then manipulated them to start a war. All male leads willingly went to the battlefield, just to win her heart. Big sister Alice also sacrificed because of this. Liliana herself was taken to the Empire as a prisoner, and during a chance encounter, she witnessed the instigator of all this, Rebecca. She suddenly understood why the male leads went crazy for her, although she wanted to change her big sister's fate. Liliana, with her memories, only had the mentality of a 6-year-old. One moment she was worrying about how to protect her sister. The next moment Rebecca took out a chocolate. All thoughts of plot, changes, everything was completely forgotten. "Do you like chocolate?" "Of course, Liliana loves it the most." Amelia reminded her from the side, "You should say thank you." Before she could finish saying thanks, the chocolate was already in her stomach. Rebecca gently stroked Liliana's head. The corner of her mouth curling into a smile, she softly asked, "Liliana, what is your dream?" "I want to live happily with my sisters." "That's great, it will certainly come true." After speaking, Rebecca leaned against the railing. The determination in her eyes seemed like a final farewell. "Please grow up healthy, Liliana, okay?" Then came a splash. Rebecca fell into the deep sea. After searching for a month without finding Rebecca's body, she was finally declared dead. Liliana looked at everything in disbelief. The story had ended before it even began. Then, what were the memories in her head? Everything that happened troubled Liliana, making her lose her appetite. "What's wrong, Liliana?" The youngest sighs the heaviest. "Is there some secret you can't tell your sisters?" But the second sister held her little head. "I think she just doesn't want to eat bell peppers." Liliana looked guilty. "Bell peppers are so pitiful, why eat them?" The second sister suddenly gave her a death stare. Liliana immediately cleaned her plate of bell peppers. At this time, the third sister brought freshly made soup. Every ingredient was Liliana's favorite. These are Liliana's three sisters: the fierce Amelia, the gentle Regina, and the most beloved big sister Alice. Of course, there's also brother Andrea, but he's rarely home, so Liliana often misses him. Now that the female lead is dead, Liliana doesn't know whether to reveal the story, but her little brain can't think too much. The most important thing now is to eat, but sometimes the story plot, even if left unattended, will continue on its own. When Liliana was shopping with her second sister, she met a man so beautiful even women would be jealous. Just as Liliana was admiring him, her sister's question, "Are you Casal?" gave Liliana's young heart a heavy blow. Casal, that genius magician, the crazy one who imprisoned the female lead in the original story? Liliana squeezed her little hands, praying she had misheard. Unexpectedly, Casal seemed to do it on purpose, introducing his name again. But logically, he shouldn't be here now. The story should unfold 6 years later. Liliana wanted to pull her sister away, but didn't know how to begin. Don't be fooled by Casal's harmless appearance. Liliana knows how crazy he became after losing the female lead. What confused Liliana was, her sister seemed determined to interact with him. Helpless, Liliana could only directly face this dangerous man. If he threatened her sister, she would bite off his arm. So Miss Amelia, what would you like? Damn, this guy's radiance is too dazzling. At this moment, her sister pressed Liliana's head. She's my sister. Because she was premature, her body has always been weak. She gets fever and cough when startled. You mean you want to ask if I can use healing magic, right? Upon hearing this, Liliana learned her sister did all this for her illness. If that's the case, she must stop it immediately. But Amelia thought she wanted juice, looking at her favorite drink in front, and thinking her sister might be in danger. Liliana directly poured the juice on herself. Her clothes were soaked, forcing her sister to end the conversation. Liliana nervously glanced at Kaisel. He was staring directly at her, that gaze as if seeing through everything. Back home, Liliana told her sister she didn't like Kaisel. Isn't he handsome? He is handsome, but I still don't like him. But Amelia wouldn't indulge Liliana. After all, her sister's illness still needed Kaisel's healing magic. Liliana could only cover her mouth and sigh. These sisters always make her worry. But she couldn't refuse her sister's love. The next day, she followed her third sister to the amusement park to relax. Liliana couldn't be happier. Since the Rebecca incident, she had a fever for a long time, so she withdrew from kindergarten. Staying at home nearly suffocated her. Finally, her sisters compromised. She could finally try the long-missed slide and reunite with the swing. Although swinging was comfortable, she wanted to go higher. If only someone could push her. Unexpectedly, her wish came true. Though she couldn't see who was behind her, she still needed to thank them for helping. Do you want to swing higher? Of course, I want to fly higher. Hearing this, the man became excited. The hand pushing Liliana became stronger. And Liliana, immersed in joy, forgot to hold the chains tightly. The next second, she fell from the air. When Liliana realized what was happening, her mind went blank. Is this how I'm going to die? Suddenly, a burly man caught her. Then her sister also rushed over. Regina was so scared her eyes were full of tears. She kept asking if Liliana was hurt. The man who caught her was also frightened, apologizing frantically. Don't worry, Marius, she's fine. Hearing this name, however, Liliana was troubled. Thanks to you for catching her, Leo. What? One wave hadn't settled before another rose. Castle had just appeared. Why were the other two male leads also here? Even worse, her sister loudly rebuked the other. How could you use such force on such a small child? Liliana never expected her normally gentle third sister would have such an explosive side, even stunned Marius on the spot. If it weren't for that guy, my sister might have been injured. Knowing the other's identity, Liliana begged her sister to stop. Unexpectedly, Marius actually bowed and apologized. Is this still the tyrant from her memories? I didn't expect him to be so polite. Sister, don't worry, I'm fine. Seeing Liliana so understanding and calming her. As a sister, she naturally wouldn't ruin the atmosphere. Leo blushed when thanked. And this big guy was the master swordsman who perfected his skills in the novel. But now he didn't look scary. Besides, without him, she might have been in grave danger. Thank you very much for saving me. Liliana's adorable appearance inadvertently captured Marius. So he proposed to let Liliana and her sisters be his guides. Such an outrageous request was predictably ignored. Do you know how difficult it is to get to Travaza? So, lady, can you help us? Sister, please don't agree. What are you saying? Anyone with a conscience wouldn't ask like that. Great job, sister. Then Marius patted Leo. Actually, he wants a guide more than I do. The two looked at each other as expected. Yes, I'm shameless enough to ask for your help. The situation was gradually getting out of control, and Liliana didn't know what to do. Marius's arrival meant that Big Sister had already contacted him, since Big Sister was an Imperial Guard member. So Liliana boldly tried another approach, since she couldn't prevent it. Why not make the male leads become friends with us? So at Marius's suggestion, they became tour guides. Although Regina's anger had dissipated, she still completely ignored Marius. Fortunately, Marius didn't mind much, unlike that crazy Kassel. These two male leads were surprisingly easy to get along with. Before long, Liliana the guide was exhausted. I didn't expect you little one to sigh so much. I'm just tired. So how old are you? 6. And I'm not a little one. Of course, at 6 you should be called a baby. What a joke. How old are you, sir? Unexpectedly, Marius showed a sly expression, then turned on his charm. How old do you think I am? This damn charm was hard for Liliana to resist. She didn't expect the joking Marius to be so perfect, to the point that Liliana, who had no resistance to beauty, instantly fell for it. But the awkward atmosphere around brought her back. You look like a 550-year-old grandpa, what? Child, how can you say that? You must be joking, right? Not 500 years, 5,500 years. Marius was unfazed after hearing this. Then you really have no eye for beauty. But I'm still handsome even if I'm 5,000 years old, right? No, Leo is a bit more handsome. These words completely devastated Marius's psychological defenses. He could accept being called thousands of years old, but not being uglier than Leo. Leo patted Marius's shoulder. Is there anything wrong with what Liliana said? Liliana, you must be joking. No joke. Regina couldn't help but laugh. The youngest has good taste, sister agrees. Just one sentence made Leo as red as a ripe lion. The waiter brought food at this time. Hungry Liliana felt rescued, just as she was about to feast. A customer entered the restaurant. Leo recognized him and asked, "Cassel, why are you here? I need to handle some matters, so I came early. Aren't you two earlier than me?" Seeing Cassel, Liliana's noodles instantly lost their appeal. "We wanted to come early to familiarize ourselves with the route. Plus, we have a cute guide." "But child, why do you look so pale?" Liliana was certainly pale. After all, this guy was the most dangerous man in the novel. "We meet again, little lady." In the original plot, he not only imprisoned the female lead but also captured Liliana as a maid. When Rebecca protested with a hunger strike, he poisoned Liliana. It wouldn't be fatal in the short term, but required continuous antidote. To protect Liliana, Rebecca had to compromise and eat, even though she had severe stomach problems and kept vomiting. So Liliana couldn't accept becoming friends with Kessel. Her sister also noticed Liliana's change. "Nice to meet you. You seem to know our youngest. You must be Amelia's sister." "That's right. But I'm curious, how did you meet Amelia?" Cassel smiled slightly. "Don't you know? She signed a contract with me in exchange for Liliana's health." Regina wanted to ask about the contract's contents, but Cassel wasn't willing to tell her. After learning everything, Regina's face darkened. "I didn't expect my good sister would hide such a big thing." Liliana ate without tasting. She didn't know what contract was signed, but knew it was all for her health. And Cassel continued to fan the flames. Her other sister seems to have scolded her badly. As expected, Regina's pressure doubled. "So I'm the only one who didn't know." Liliana no longer had an appetite. Second sister, run quickly. While Amelia was still unaware of the approaching danger. When the sunset dyed the sky cold yellow and the afterglow sprinkled on the rippling sea, Liliana slowly opened her eyes, finding herself asleep on Leo's back. The bored Marius immediately noticed her. "Our little lady has woken up," sister also asked if she slept well. Liliana vaguely remembered that after eating, Cassel left. Without him, Liliana could finally play carefree, but when she woke up again, she found her drool had wet Leo's clothes. "Mr. Leo, we're almost home. I can escort you to your doorstep. No need to trouble yourself." Hearing this, Leo didn't insist. He put the sleepy Liliana on the ground, but when saying goodbye, he called to Regina. With a red face, he stammered, Will I have a chance to ask you to be my guide again?" Marius whistled on the side. Liliana seized the opportunity. Stepping on his shoe, "Don't ruin the atmosphere." Unexpectedly, Marius pressed Liliana with one hand and imitated her speaking tone, instantly angering Liliana. "Don't copy me, hey, don't copy me!" Angry Liliana unleashed a barrage of punches on his knee, but Marius escalated, directly lifting Liliana into the air. "Let go. I'm not a child. Anyone who denies being a child is a child." "Well, since you say so." Liliana activated her child-exclusive skill. Her crying interrupted Leo and Regina, but they still agreed on a meeting time. "What's wrong with my princess?" Liliana didn't speak, just kept crying loudly. "Don't cry, princess." Leo looked at Marius helplessly. "I did this all to help you date Regina. Aren't you grateful for my good intentions?" After saying this, Marius became serious. It was his first time seeing this wooden man show such expression. Perhaps he truly fell in love, but he wondered what his subordinates would think seeing him like this. Anyway, them getting lost and ending up at the amusement park was a heaven-sent opportunity. Right, Leo? Right, the Empire's greatest knight, Leo. And Marius, who climbed to the throne over his family's corpse through bloody storms, were now strong enough to wander another country without concerns. But both forgot they had no sense of direction. "Where is this place? Don't ask me." So the two wandered aimlessly, seeing the harmonious and prosperous surroundings. Marius began to doubt his original plan to invade. Perhaps cooperation with Trovatza would be a better choice. While he was pondering, he heard a girl's silver bell-like laughter. Only then did they realize they had unknowingly arrived at an amusement park. When he saw the girl's back, and that familiar face, Marius completely abandoned the idea of invasion. He remembered an old friend, his thoughts drawn back to the past. "Listen carefully, Marius. I might die, and hope you can take care of my family." This was his close friend Andrea's last request before leaving. Thinking of this, the usually carefree Marius unexpectedly showed a trace of sadness. Leo, who was about to approach, turned his head to find Marius had already disappeared. Marius was now standing behind Liliana, pushing her swing. His gaze was very gentle. "Andrea, my close friend, even if time were reversed, my oath still stands. I promised to protect your beloved siblings. Now it's time to fulfill that promise. Hold tight, I'm going to push hard." Meanwhile, after Liliana and her sister returned home, Regina and Amelia erupted in argument. One believed Cassel could cure Liliana. One thought they shouldn't use Liliana as a magic experiment guinea pig. The fierce quarrel was finally quelled by the big sister. The next day, Liliana slept until the sun was high. She was impatiently woken by her second sister. But Liliana's eyes opened while her mind was still dreaming. "Sister, let me sleep a little longer." Emilia wouldn't indulge her. She pulled off Liliana's blanket. "Please, sister, when I say no, it means no." Soon after, Liliana, munching on bread, asked her sister what they would do today. "Remember that handsome boy we met last time? Today we're going to see him." Liliana looked at her sister in disbelief, after brief pondering with her little brain. "Oh my stomach hurts so much I need to stay home." Predictably, Emilia gave her a death stare. Liliana's illness instantly recovered. What was coming eventually came. But Liliana didn't expect it so soon. Cassell poisoning her should happen years later. Looking at the bubbling, strange drink, Liliana gave her sister a pleading look. Unexpectedly, sister forced her to drink it. Any medicine good for the body tastes bad. Liliana refused to comply. "If you drink it, you can buy anything you want. I don't want to buy anything." Then Emilia directly put the straw in her mouth. At this point, thinking sister wouldn't harm her, Liliana decided to take a small sip. Instantly, the weird taste violently attacked her taste buds, making Liliana spit out what she had just ingested. Her sister was also anxious, begging Liliana to try again. Seeing her sister so persistent, Liliana steeled herself to try once more. But it was still undrinkable. Finally, she even said she'd rather get an injection. This angered Emilia. "You must drink it today." Predictably, this made Liliana wail. "I hate sister, I said I don't want to drink." She took her food with little hands, and in front of everyone, ran da-da-da-da to the next table. Surprisingly, even in such sorrow, she didn't forget to eat. Finally, her sister calmed down and apologized for her tone. But Liliana turned her head away angrily. Then a piece of cake appeared before her. Her sorrowful emotions instantly vanished. "Let's make up. Hope Liliana feels better after eating this." Close-range comfort from a super handsome man bewitched Liliana into forgetting she was angry. Fortunately, she woke up in time. The more handsome the guy, the more dangerous. Liliana crossed her arms, vowing not to be bewitched again. Cassell calmly raised his hand. The emitted golden light eventually gathered into a small squirrel. It could sing, dance, and perform good acrobatics. This cute, fuzzy appearance easily won Liliana over. "Let's calm down and make up with sister, okay?" Unexpectedly, Liliana agreed without thinking. Just as she wanted to take it back, a piece of cake stuffed her mouth. "That magic drink tastes so terrible, yet you still drank it." Liliana is really brave. Thus Liliana was coaxed back to the table, making Emilia look at the man before her with new respect. Cassell carefully instructed that after taking medicine she might fever, needing rest. "In that case, please come check on Liliana weekly." Of course, that's also part of the contract. But most importantly, Cassell turned to look at Liliana, his gaze becoming solemn and cautious. "I sincerely hope Liliana grows up healthy and happy." Back home, Liliana. Her little brain couldn't figure it out. She really didn't understand why Cassell showed that expression at the end. Her little hand turned the doorknob. Liliana entered Regina's room. "Come here, Liliana. Which of these two looks better, blue or yellow?" But Liliana only had expertise in food. Choosing clothes was still too difficult for her. Emilia also walked into the room. "You've been on so many dates. Who can make you care so much?" Regina, with golden flowing hair like liquid gold and eyes as brilliant as jewels. Not only beautiful but also full of romantic aspirations. But after dating many times, until now no one could catch her eye. This time Regina was unusually proactive. Liliana also teased from the side. Who is it? Do I know him? The one I'm meeting is Leo from last time." "What?" Sister just said. Emilia asked who that was. "You wouldn't know, Miss Single," while Liliana in the middle was exploding. In the original plot, Leo and Big Sister served as commanders of 2 countries. After a fierce battle, Travazza was defeated. The one who took Alicia's life was Leo himself. If he became her brother-in-law, would that mean Big Sister would be safe? An opportunity not to be missed. Liliana gave her full support. Just then, Emilia noticed something wrong. "Youngest, why is your face so red? Let's take some fever medicine." "Why?" "Because you have a fever." Liliana touched her forehead and found it was indeed hot. That night, out of concern for Liliana's health, Regina eventually lost interest in the date and carried her sister to the hospital. More important than a romantic date was family to Regina. On her back, Liliana didn't speak, but in her heart she apologized to her sister 1,000 times. Stood up by Regina, Leo looked lifeless. "How did you come back so quickly? Were you rejected?" "No, I was stood up." He recalled their parting conversation. "Do you have a wife or partner?" Leo shook his head shyly. In the end, Regina was the one who set the time and place. This made Leo think Regina was also interested in him. Now it seemed it was just his wishful thinking. Perhaps Regina had no interest in him at all. He waited 3 hours and she didn't show up. The answer was very clear. Marius didn't know how to comfort him. He reminded that a new guide would arrive soon, and to prepare to leave. Before he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Leo opened it calmly. Marius approached with enthusiasm, but at the moment their hands met, his green pupils suddenly contracted, his eyes full of irrepressible amazement. "Hello, I'm the Chief Inspector from Travia Sea City Police Department, Alish, nice to meet you." Just one look was enough for Marius to be amazed by the lady. That wild and free appearance made her hard to approach, but her voice struck Marius as unexpectedly gentle. "You wouldn't be Regina's sister, would you?" Alicia was a bit surprised. Marius explained what had happened. Learning she was Regina's sister, the previously expressionless Leo instantly became nervous. Moments later, they packed their luggage and got into the carriage. The car was quiet. Looking at the woman sitting formally before him, Marius's gaze became serious. Becrio, the most renowned political family in Trovatza, cultivated countless politicians and military strategists. For Becrio to send such a person to escort him showed Trovatza's sincerity. "By the way, how is Liliana recently? She's been in the hospital with continuous fever. Regina has been caring for her." Learning he wasn't deliberately stood up, Leo's face turned bright red. This hopeless appearance made Marius sigh. After ending this topic, Marius rubbed his chin and asked, "Does Trovatza have many treasures?" "Is that true? What do you want?" "I've decided to hold a political marriage." For this, Marius prepared a soul oath. If either party violates it, their heart would shatter. Rather than written contracts between countries, I believe more in bonds formed by blood. "Do you have any specific requirements? Preferably a marriage partner from a prominent political family." Hearing this, Alicia's eyes became sharp. The playful man before her was one who climbed to power with hands stained by family blood. Behind the jest was a suffocating pressure. "I think Miss Alicia would be an excellent choice." Only then did she understand. Marius's target from the beginning was herself. Alicia returned a smile. "I think that depends on what you can offer me. You should know, I don't compromise so easily." Meanwhile, with Liliana. Due to unabating fever, Regina and Emilia were arguing fiercely again. Liliana was also very sad. It was because of her that her sisters were like this. These days, whenever she opened her eyes, she would see Emilia crying beside her. If she got better, sister would stop crying, right? Heaven seemed to hear her wish. Surprisingly, Liliana recovered the next day. Finally leaving her bed, Liliana ignored Emilia's persuasion and went to the amusement park alone. Along the way, her little head sorted through the plot. The female lead, Rebecca, was dead. If the person Marius fell in love with longed for peace, wouldn't that mean he wouldn't start a war? Cassel probably wouldn't go crazy either. If she didn't get sick, letting Leo and Regina date would be even better. Leo was not only kind but also very pure. But where could she meet them? Surprisingly, just turning her head, she saw the people she wanted to meet. "Hey, little one, I heard you were very unwell. Now it seems you're much better." And with Liliana's recovery, the quarrels at home finally ceased. Emilia was just about to go out to find Liliana, but was stopped by Alicia. "Let me go today." Emilia didn't refuse. She wanted to go to the library to find some information. Seeing Regina with closed eyes, Alicia told her to go rest in her room, but Regina said she wasn't tired. Then she curled her hair with her hand, her cheeks blushing. "Now I can't sleep when I think of him." "Who could make you like this?" "A guy I met by chance. Frankly, personality-wise he's not my type. Looks-wise I prefer Cassel's type. But somehow when he approached, that gentle voice and that shy, pleading to see me again appearance was deeply imprinted on Regina's heart. If it's truly destiny, Regina believed they would meet again someday. Then she pushed Alicia out. "Remember to bring some food when you come back." Unexpectedly, as soon as Alicia opened the door, she found Liliana standing outside. The little one's eyes were gleaming. She flew into Alicia's arms, and Regina looked up, just in time to meet Leo's gaze. At that moment, it was as if time stood still. As their eyes met, all surrounding noise gradually faded away. Only the sound of wildly beating hearts remained. Suddenly, Regina realized. Sleepwear, no grooming, and messy hair. This was no way to meet a date. With a bang, Regina disappeared from the doorway. Liliana told her sister they were lost and had no money, so she brought them home. Marius cheerfully popped out. "Miss Alice, you're still as beautiful as ever." After Regina changed clothes, they went to the restaurant. "Liliana, you shouldn't run around in the restaurant." "I know, I was just looking for a seat." Then she pushed Leo next to her sister. The two gazed at each other, the air temperature rapidly rising. Worried, Leo didn't understand her sister. Liliana thoughtfully told Leo her sister liked lilacs, and her matchmaking was far from over. On the way, she deliberately held both their hands, and constantly praised Leo's handsomeness to her sister, through her matchmaking. Leo and her sister's relationship was going smoothly. Liliana was already fantasizing about Leo becoming her brother-in-law. Then the war probability would decrease, big sister's survival probability would soar. If sister had children, wouldn't she become an aunt? But Alicia's punch broke Liliana's fantasy. "Sister, why did you hit me? Are you planning to tease Regina more?" Witnessing all this, Marius asked. "Liliana, would you be Cupid once more?" Saying this, he gazed at Alicia and added, "For your sister, as a magic research enthusiast." Emilia's only interest was immersing herself in the library. Coincidentally, she met Cassel there. As a regular here, Emilia recommended better books for him. In the end, she kept recommending until Cassel couldn't refuse. "In that case, I'll take my leave." Unexpectedly, as she left, her hand was caught by Cassel. To show gratitude, Cassel wanted to treat her to a meal. For Amelia, it was just a small gesture. But Cassel was persistent. He also had his own purpose. One was to learn more about Travatsa through Amelia. Two, because she was Andrea's sister. He and Andrea had made an agreement. To get closer to Amelia faster, Cassel used his specialty. Beautiful face paired with a gentle smile. Enough to conquer everything in the world. Who knew Amelia would suddenly grimace, showing an expression Cassel had never seen. Your smile makes me a bit uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Such an answer was unexpected for the handsome man. Then Amelia suddenly leaned forward. Others might be bewitched by you, but it means nothing to me, so don't waste time on me. Looking at the girl completely immune to him. Cassel even doubted his own looks, so he turned his gaze to the opposite side, continuing to use his face technique. The affected girl's heart almost jumped out. Seeing this, Cassel was reassured, so where did the problem lie? But looking down, he saw Amelia's frowning face again. However, Cassel didn't mind. Instead, he became interested in the girl before him. Meanwhile, on Liliana's side, the atmosphere was tense with gunpowder. Liliana, would you be willing to be Cupid once more for your sister? Before Liliana could understand the meaning, she saw her sister's piercing glare. Maria suddenly pulled out a menu. Order whatever you want. Really? Of course. But mister, didn't you say you had no money? To dispel Liliana's doubts, Marius raised his hand and said, bring everything on the menu. This instantly filled Liliana with admiration. How about that? Isn't Mr. the best? Although they didn't end up ordering everything, they did pack up all the desserts Liliana loved. Her favorability toward Marius skyrocketed. And when Liliana turned her head, she saw Leo cutting steak for Regina, the two looking deeply in love, which made Liliana giggle foolishly on the side. Seeing this, he had no choice but to help cut Liliana's meat too. Leo looked at the palm-sized meat patty on the plate, then thought of that kid Edgar. Though they were about the same age, that boy ate twice as much as Liliana. At this moment, Alicia noticed. Liliana hadn't touched a single vegetable on her plate. At her sister's insistence, Liliana could only hold her nose and forcibly swallow the carrots. Unexpectedly, Marius picked up his fork and helped Liliana with her vegetables. A simple action that earned him more of Liliana's favor. But soon, because of Marius's narcissism, Liliana's rapidly rising favorability cooled somewhat. How about that? Aren't I amazing? I'm a bit tired. So Liliana stopped paying attention to Marius and got up to use the bathroom. Regina wanted to accompany her. I'm not a child anymore. Our Lily has grown up, so come with me. The remaining few took the opportunity to discuss business. You shouldn't get close to our sister. Marius paid no attention to Alicia's warning. Instead, he brought up the marriage alliance. So what conditions did you set regarding your sister Liliana's health? After speaking, Marius sipped his red wine. Given the current situation, she may not live past 15. You must realize this. When Liliana returned, she sensed the atmosphere was off. But from Alicia's expression, it wasn't hard to tell that Marius must have upset her sister again. Little one, what do you want to do after dinner? After dinner, I want to eat snacks, of course. And after that? This stumped Liliana. She caught a glimpse of Alicia's furrowed brow and swallowed the second half of her sentence. But after thinking it over, she finally expressed her desire to visit the amusement park. Though she knew, due to her health, she couldn't go to crowded places. Sure enough, Alicia immediately gave her a stern look. But Marius patted Liliana's head. The circus sounds fun, let's go see it. Hearing this, Liliana was so happy she couldn't close her mouth. My kindergarten friend Vicky always said it was fun. To show her enthusiasm, Liliana even picked up her fork to finish her vegetables. After dinner, Liliana impatiently pulled her sister toward the circus. Don't rush, we'll get there even if we walk slowly. But these words acted like a stimulant for Liliana. She darted forward like an unbridled horse, leaving her sister far behind. In her mind, she kept repeating circus, circus. So much that she forgot she was in the middle of the road with a carriage rushing toward her. The iron hooves came ferociously through the air. There was a loud crash, followed by piercing screams around them. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself lying in her sister's battered arms, who had firmly protected her. People crowded around to check on them. Regina's face lost all color from fright. Marius anxiously called out to Alicia, but no matter how he called, she didn't respond. Alicia's condition thoroughly frightened Liliana. Sister, please don't be like this. Fortunately, the next second Alicia sat up from the ground. Seeing her sister's anxious expression, Liliana prepared herself to be scolded. Unexpectedly, Alicia hugged her head and examined her all over. Did you hit your head? Are your legs okay? Do you know how dangerous that was? As she spoke, Liliana could no longer hold back her tears. I'm so glad sister is okay. It's because of me you got hurt. It's all right, Liliana. But the more she said this, the more upset Liliana became. Fortunately, the accident ended with more fear than harm. Liliana eventually cried herself to sleep with swollen eyes. Marius quietly closed the door. Today's incident really scared her. But it's a shame to leave scars on your beautiful face. Let's do it. What? What did you say? After today's incident, Alicia finally made up her mind. Let's complete our previous contract, the political marriage. Regarding love, Alicia had never yearned for it. After Andrea left, family had become Alicia's entire life. From that time on, she had planned her career. Marriage and love had been erased from her life. Supporting the family was her only mission. To her, Liliana wasn't just a sister, but more like a daughter. She couldn't bear to see such a child die from illness. If a marriage could become the hope of saving Liliana, Alicia was willing to marry someone without an emotional foundation. Her determined eyes once again stunned Marius. This woman seemed to never consider herself. Her thoughts were difficult to fathom, but the resilience she displayed could always move people. Leo also felt very guilty. He should have protected Liliana, but he didn't expect Alicia to react even faster than him. At this moment, he noticed Regina looking dejected on the side. Leo carefully inquired about the reason. Regina forced a smile. I feel pathetic. How could that be? Leo clearly didn't understand Regina's meaning. This is the second time I failed to save Liliana. She was right beside me, yet I couldn't do anything. If only I could be more useful. Perhaps her sister wouldn't have been hurt so badly. Seeing tears about to fall from Regina's eyes, unexpectedly, Leo sat down and held her hand. I'm sorry, I'm not good with these delicate matters. Except for fighting or protecting, I have no talents. But I believe everyone has their strengths. Miss Regina, you should protect Liliana in your own way, just as you are now. Suddenly, Leo realized he was holding Regina's hand. I apologize, I was being presumptuous. But his flustered manner made Regina laugh heartily. Your words are comforting. So, before you return to the Empire, can you spare some time? I'd like to invite you to my home. Leo pondered for a moment. Can we change the home visit invitation? Well, I'd like to complete the date we couldn't have last time. It's something I've been looking forward to. While Regina and Leo were being sweet here, the news that Alicia would marry the Emperor came like a bolt from the blue. These unscrupulous tabloids always write nonsense. As Regina held a spatula in protest, Big Sister told them it was all true. The two sisters stood frozen. Big Sister, are you getting married? Yes, to that man called Marius. The number of unsettled people increased by one. Emilia angrily questioned why, but Alicia refused to explain. Instead, she turned and told Liliana to go back to her room. Liliana hesitated, but Alicia's gaze left no room for Liliana to hesitate further. Back in her room, Liliana hugged her doll. She didn't understand why her sister would do this, so she decided to go out and find out, but then she heard that Alicia was leaving home, and taking her along too. When families separate, society will decline. When society declines, the universe will explode. Liliana's little head was filled with big principles, so without further thought, she decided to personally persuade Marius to cancel the engagement, because of last night's argument. Liliana left the house surprisingly easily. Now she just needed to take a carriage to find Marius. But the coachman refused to take her as a passenger. You little brat, stop making trouble. I have money, I want to go to the Zorro Hotel. Then bring your mother. But I don't have a mother or father. My brother is at the Zorro Hotel. He had an argument with my sisters, and I really want to see him. Although Liliana lied, Marius was actually at the hotel. But mentioning her brother still made Liliana miss him dearly. He had done his best for the family. After their parents passed away, this brother, 24 years older than her, took on all the family responsibilities. To Liliana, he was like a second father, and the reason her brother left home must be because she was too annoying and he got tired of her. Thinking about this, tears started flowing uncontrollably. The coachman was helpless at the sight. Family members should indeed see each other. Do you think so too, mister? Then let's go. With a whoosh, Liliana was thrown onto the carriage. She didn't even have time to react. Was it settled that easily? Her tearful expression immediately changed to one of success. Should she just fall to the ground when she sees Marius? Then trick him by saying he's the most handsome man to persuade him not to marry her sister. When Liliana opened her eyes again, her little head turned surprisingly toward the window. She didn't expect to arrive after just a short nap. Liliana was also very sensible. Sir, here's the fare. Then she handed the coachman 5 coins gripped in her small hand, and ran off without looking back. Unexpectedly, the coachman stared at the coins, and pulled Liliana back. Little one, you didn't give enough money. How is that possible? Sister always gives 5 coins for the carousel ride. She had even counted specifically that it was 5 coins. But she soon realized what was wrong. She had given copper coins instead of silver ones. Just then, Marius got out of a carriage. The argument on the side quickly attracted his attention. And Liliana also spotted Marius. Brother, Liliana is here, come quickly. No, why is this little one here? And she immediately attached herself to his leg, asking to borrow money. Why did you take a carriage? Liliana's little brain worked rapidly. Because I wanted to come see you. These words hit Marius right in the heart. He smirked. Liliana, did you just call me brother? Hey, brother. I really didn't expect you'd call me brother. Looking at his face made Liliana inexplicably angry. But dependent on others, she had no choice but to lower her head. Since you're her guardian, please pay up quickly. Before he finished speaking, Marius flicked away a coin. I think this should be enough. Soon Liliana witnessed the power of money. The coachman's attitude changed 180 degrees. Liliana asked in confusion, is just 1 coin enough? Of course, that's a gold coin. What? Big sister said 1 gold coin is worth 100 silver coins. So such a rich fellow. Had lied about not having money for dinner last time. Child, aren't you hungry? How about we eat together? Liliana had no reason to refuse this. Do you miss me? No. Besides, you're not Liliana's brother. You called me brother first. I was just joking. Her serious expression made Marius unable to stop smiling. Max, isn't my sister-in-law cute? Hearing this, Liliana angrily pounded the table. I'm not your sister-in-law. You will be soon. No, I object. Seeing this, Marius put on a sad expression. I'll cry sadly, then cry, I'll buy you chocolate to comfort you, but you must give up my sister. Marius didn't understand why Liliana didn't like him. That's because my sister is too good for you. She's the most beautiful and coolest in this world, and she's also very powerful. Am I not the most handsome, richest, and strongest man in the world? More like the most shameless. Are all emperors this shameless? In terms of strength, he's no match for Leo, and in terms of looks, Cassel is better. Doesn't your conscience hurt? So child, you didn't come alone, right? Where are your sisters? Liliana thought for a moment. I came by myself. Then you must have told them before leaving, right? Of course. She was so clever she must have left a note. So what exactly did the note say? She couldn't seem to remember. Liliana kept telling herself to stay calm. At this point, pressing her face against her doll would help her think of a solution. Quick, tell me what to do. I can't think of anything, let's cry first. Seeing this, Marius could only helplessly have his assistant notify her sisters. As expected, chaos had already broken out there. The sisters had searched everywhere but couldn't find Liliana. Just as Emilia was about to ask Cassel for help, the door was knocked upon, and they all prayed it was Liliana. But if it were, she would just push the door open. Emilia opened the door with hope. Standing at the door was Leo holding flowers. It seems he had once again chosen a bad time for a date. I'm sorry, Leo, I'm afraid I can't keep our appointment again. Liliana has gone missing. At this moment, an attendant approached. He told them Liliana was at the Zorro Hotel. She was with Marius. Learning that Liliana was at the Zorro Hotel. On the way there, Alicia kept telling herself to stay calm. At least she should find out why Liliana left home. But when she actually saw Liliana, her emotions inexplicably lost control. She gripped Liliana's arm tightly. Youngest, do you know that when you leave, you must tell your sisters first? Liliana also realized her mistake and apologized with a choked voice. What if you encountered danger alone? Alicia's crying expression made Liliana realize how serious her mistake was this time. Because of her selfish actions, she was always making Big Sister worry. What if Big Sister also didn't want her, like her brother? Liliana hugged Alicia and sobbed, please don't let me be separated from my sister. At this moment, Alicia realized. She had been raising Liliana out of responsibility, neglecting her feelings. Back at Travatsa, Liliana was punished to sit in the reflection chair for 15 minutes. Even water had to be brought to her. Marius took the opportunity to sit beside her, asking why she did this, and why she didn't want her sister to marry him. Is it because you feel I'm taking your sister away? Liliana's face reddened as her thoughts were guessed. She quickly changed the subject to avoid it. Marius had only guessed half of it. If Leo and Regina married, they would move to Trovatsa to live. But Marius wouldn't leave the palace. By then, she would hardly be able to see her sisters. Losing brother Andrea was already hard to bear. Now Liliana wouldn't allow any sister to leave. Just then she overheard Leo and Regina's conversation. She decided to live in the empire like her big sister. For this, she asked if there was suitable work for her. Making this decision required great determination from Regina. If not for Big Sister, she would never go to that country that discriminated against women and children. Seeing her big sister's breakdown, Regina couldn't ignore it. I know this might seem sudden, but Leo interrupted Regina because he saw Liliana eavesdropping at the corner. Unable to hear more, Liliana ran back to her room heartbroken. She didn't understand what went wrong, causing their once happy family to fall apart. And after Leo returned, he kept thinking about Regina's words. After moving to the Empire, I don't want to be a burden and need to support myself. This surprised Leo greatly. The noble women he had met never worked. A noble's duty was to collect land revenue to care for the people. But in a prestigious family like the Beccario, each member still had their own profession. My Regina is truly the best. The assistant quickly reported Leo's unusual behavior, but Marius was already used to it. Are you that happy about Regina's arrival? Of course, he answered without hesitation. So is love really that wonderful? But he also specifically reminded Leo not to forget his oath. If war breaks out between the Empire and Trovatsa. Before he could finish, Leo indicated he understood. So I hope you can handle Regina's matter well. After saying this, Marius turned and left. Before leaving, he looked at the small box in his hand and smiled involuntarily. Meanwhile, at home, Liliana was bored to death. 3 days of house arrest was too agonizing for her. Now she recalled Emilia's scolding. Perhaps staying with Big Sister in the Empire wouldn't be so bad. At this moment, Liliana put down her pen, finally completing this letter to Andrea. Though wrinkled, it was still readable. She believed her brother would surely forgive her. With this thought, Liliana knocked on Regina's door. "Take me to the post office." But Regina said she was busy. Liliana could only go bother Emilia. Unexpectedly, she who always opposed Liliana going out, acted contrary to her usual self today. "Really? When have I ever lied to you?" "Many times!" With Emilia's roar. Liliana had already instinctively fled. "I'm telling the truth!" Opening the door, Liliana heard a scream. Before she could react, she saw Marius lying on the ground covering his face. "Wait, mister? Why are you here?" He lay on the ground covering his face with both hands. "I think my nose might be broken. If a little one could blow on it, it might feel better." Liliana approached cautiously, but saw Marius's grinning face. She thought, why wasn't this guy killed by the crash? But Liliana still gestured enthusiastically to fan and blow air for Marius. "The little one is amazing. That's a must." Then Emilia stepped forward. "So why are you here?" Marius also revealed the purpose of his visit. He came to find Alice. As a result, Emilia's pupils emitted waves of killing intent, seeing Marius confused. The argument outside woke Alice. Coming out, she asked the same question as Emilia. "I came to bring you the engagement ring. Also, I wanted to have dinner with you." Liliana wanted to join, but Emilia tactfully sent her away. This matter could only be resolved by Big Sister herself. But Liliana was persistent. Before leaving, she instructed Big Sister not to stay too long with this silly gentleman, to remember to come home early. Hearing her catchphrase learned by Liliana, the overflowing happiness made Alice's lips curl slightly. Soon, in a reception room, Marius explained the 10-year marriage contract on the document, and various benefit conditions. Alice added an extra condition about using sacred power for treatment. She hoped to arrange for the Tower Master to treat Liliana. Although Emilia knew Kessel, a written contract made her more at ease. Also, during the marriage, my family can enter the Empire. Marius agreed to all these. Her own contract was already watertight. But what about yours? What do you want? What more could I want when I have Alice? This nonsense made Alice roll her eyes. They weren't some love-struck young couple. But regarding what Marius wanted, even she had no answer. And the honest, never-lying Emilia once again tricked Liliana into meeting Kessel. "I'll help you mail the letter and buy you something delicious." But when Liliana was brought over, she only saw the smiling Kessel. Emilia, feeling guilty, offered to compensate with jelly. This huge temptation made Liliana waver. 2, no, 4. The two quickly clapped hands, sealing the deal. Looking at the handsome man before her, Liliana had been pretending to be stupid to avoid him. But he always reminisced with a gentle smile, making Liliana think he might not be so scary. Kessel seemed to guess her thoughts. "Are you afraid of brother?" Liliana hurriedly denied it. But Emilia interrupted first. "It's sir, not brother. He doesn't look that young anymore." For sharp tongues, Emilia was hard to beat. But regardless of how they argued, she still had to drink the bitter medicine. "Can we skip it and go straight to the jelly?" But a furry little hand touched Liliana. Different from the doll last time. But the effect was the same. The cute little bear dancing became the reward for drinking the medicine. After weighing the pros and cons for a second, the medicine before her seemed less unpalatable when Liliana returned home after taking her medicine. Regina enthusiastically introduced Leo and publicly declared she would date him from now on. Besides this, she was also moving to the Empire. Liliana tremblingly looked toward Emilia, praying that sister wouldn't get angry. God rejected her request and added fuel to the fire. But Regina remained very calm, continuously praising how good Leo was. Even Liliana could feel the thick gunpowder in the air. Emilia grabbed Regina's hand. "I think we need to talk." "No, I don't think that's necessary." The end result was Emilia slamming the door heavily. Regina lowered her head to ask Liliana's opinion. She still had positive feelings for Leo. Compared to her sister's exes, Leo seemed much more reliable. Then Big Sister spoke up. "Since that's the case, Liliana, do you want to go to the Empire or stay here?" The ring on her sister's ring finger already indicated her stance. Liliana, of course, wanted to stay in Trovatsa. The warm beaches, cheap lemons, and familiar friends. If she were an adult, perhaps she could try to negotiate, but that would take at least 10 years. 3,650 nights. The next morning, Emilia, who had stayed up all night, was driven crazy by the sunlight. "Who opened my curtains?" Finally awake, Emilia stiffly turned her head, finding an elegant man drinking tea. The soft glow he emitted made even the dawn lose its color. Who would have thought Casel's early morning visit was to hold Amelia accountable? But her stubborn mind couldn't remember what happened. She only remembered letting loose yesterday, drinking like a madwoman. When she woke up, she found a man sitting by her bed, still clamoring for her to take responsibility, seeing her still righteous. Casel took out a stained garment to help her remember. It was a silk shirt, extremely fine fabric. At that time, you held me tightly and vomited all over me. I thought it was something else. At most, I'll pay more to compensate you. But Casel's purpose wasn't just this. He took out a pill he carried. After taking it, his appearance changed. Let's make a deal. I'll help you and treat your sister, but 10 years later you'll help me. Amelia wanted to know what she had to give, but saw Casel looking at her with strange eyes, saying meaningfully, "You'll know in a few years." As for Liliana, she finally received Andrea's reply. But the content was just a few lines, either being busy or unable to meet soon. The tear stains on the letter came from Liliana's swollen eyes. Today was supposed to be Big Sister's meeting with Marius, but her brother's perfunctory reply made her more certain she'd been abandoned. Now Amelia had also run away from home. And all because of that annoying marriage alliance. Are you worried I'll take your sister away? No, I just don't want to be separated from my friends. Leo said he'd introduce her to a boy about her age as a friend. But that wasn't what Liliana wanted. If that's the case, I'll take you to see them in a while. But at the end of the day, she still had to part with her friends. Liliana timidly asked, "Big sister, can't you just not get married?" As soon as she said it, Liliana realized she hadn't thought it through. The atmosphere around them became awkward. Unexpectedly, Marius jumped out to speak for Liliana. "The Empire has many interesting things. Would you like to try them?" The usually unserious man suddenly became serious. His words carried a charm that was hard to refuse. But this kind of situation generally doesn't last more than 3 seconds. When Antonio learned Liliana was leaving, he cried incessantly. He didn't want Liliana to leave, and neither did Liliana. But there was a more important mission waiting for her to complete. So she suggested they could write letters to each other, and promised to come back when she had the chance. They hooked pinkies and made an oath, forming a contract that their friendship would last. Through the carriage window, Liliana gazed at this familiar place, the blue horizon, the lemon and olive trees commonly seen on the road, and all the familiar faces. All seemed to be waving goodbye to Liliana. The cruise ship sailed on the sea. This was Liliana's first long journey. If only Amelia were by her side. Although she was always fierce, she was especially good to her. "Are you sad about leaving home?" "Yes." Amelia appeared by her side at some point. Liliana's last wish was unexpectedly realized so simply. She flew into Amelia's arms, telling her about everything that happened while she was gone. Big Sister also rushed over, what should have been a joyous reunion. But Amelia said she would serve the Empire from now on. As Travazza's rare talent, she not only resigned from her original biological research work, but also became a member of the Magic Tower. It seems another storm is brewing before reaching the Empire. Not long after, following her sisters, Liliana finally arrived at the Empire. Every magnificent building could make Liliana exclaim loudly. This inflated Marius's vanity. "Liliana, come to brother's arms." Seeing Liliana ignoring him, Marius had to personally take action. "So is coming to the Empire a good idea?" Liliana shook her finger. "That depends on how you all perform from now on. After all, someone keeps calling me little one. I'm telling the truth. I'll never speak to you again." After bantering for a while, they arrived at the palace. The luxury here far exceeded that of the town. Marius specifically instructed, "Here you must call me brother-in-law. Do you think Liliana doesn't know that?" Then she gave Alicia a look. Big Sister knowingly offered her hand. When the carriage door opened, countless gazes focused here. Liliana could only timidly follow behind her sister. Not only Liliana felt uncomfortable, Regina and Amelia also felt out of place. Only Big Sister could face it with composure. The fear brought by unfamiliar things made Liliana instinctively retreat. Fortunately, at this moment, Marius stepped forward. "Alicia, my wife, welcome you and your family to the Empire." His words were like a reassurance pill for Liliana. Her nervous feelings completely disappeared. No nervousness, but still shock, looking at the maids respectfully serving her. Liliana had never received such treatment. "Why don't you go to sister's place?" But she learned everyone had a maid. This feeling of being taken care of made Liliana very uncomfortable. She ran to Big Sister's room, finding Alicia still as calm as ever. She turned to Regina's place. Seeing she had already bonded with the maids, she thought Amelia would be harder to get along with. But unexpectedly, she and the servants had clearly divided tasks. After a full circle, Liliana found only she couldn't integrate. Now the only one who could talk to her was the doll in her hand. She suddenly missed the swing in Travazza. Speaking of which, would there be a playground in this magnificent palace? With this thought, the dejected Liliana regained her fighting spirit. Let's start by exploring the palace. but even the roadside flowers could captivate her for half the day. How come I've never seen these flowers before? These are tulips, they don't have them in Travaza. Seeing it was Mr. Leo. Liliana finally found a companion, but Leo told her he was tired and needed to rest. Could she play with his brother? He's the same age as you. This immediately interested Liliana. When Liliana looked in the direction Leo pointed, she spotted a little blonde. Liliana had never seen such a handsome boy. He was Leo's brother Edgar, except this kid's eyes weren't too friendly. He stared at the small hand holding Leo. Edgar's face grew darker. Liliana, completely unaware, still greeted him enthusiastically. "Get lost, you!" Before he finished, he slapped toward Liliana, forcibly breaking Leo's tight grip on Liliana's hand. "I'm not your friend, so stop pretending, you short pumpkin." These words pierced through Liliana. Had she misheard just now? Someone actually called her a short pumpkin. She, who was super popular in Travaza. Why would someone not want to be her friend? Leo was also stunned. "Liliana, you must be joking. Edgar still wants to be your friend." "Do you want me to lie?" Liliana asked Leo in disbelief. "Do I look ugly?" No, you're so cute." She lost all strength and collapsed on the ground. This was her first time suffering such humiliation. Liliana reluctantly asked him why he said that, and why he didn't want to be her friend. Unexpectedly, the blonde turned his head and ignored her. This small action completely broke Liliana's heart. "Sisters, I had hoped to make friends in the Empire. Now it seems impossible." "Hey, you boy. You look like a stupid eggplant. How can anyone look like that? You asparagus-looking fellow. How can anyone look like that? Not only like asparagus, you also look like seaweed." Liliana went all out. Now it was the blonde's turn to be in disbelief. "That's right, seaweed?" Leo quickly held back the raging Edgar. "Put me down, she actually called me seaweed." She actually called me seaweed." Being mimicked made Edgar even more upset. But the more he reacted, the happier Liliana became. She didn't know how this kid dared to fight with her. Leaving the furiously raging Edgar behind, Liliana turned and left. With just this level of skill, how dare that kid provoke me? She hoped to never see him again. But things often don't go as wished, the promise of not meeting. As soon as dinner time came, the two children were brought together by adults. The dining atmosphere became strange. Leo's attentiveness to Regina, Marius wanted to emulate, but unfortunately he lacked the ability. Rejected, Marius could only cut steak for Liliana. Seeing this, Edgar glared at Liliana again. Who knows what this kid was thinking all day? As the two were at a standstill, a tomato accidentally rolled off Liliana's plate. Who can't even keep a tomato on their fork? "Shut up, that was just a mistake." Seeing this, Edgar forked the rolling tomato, then with a splat, tossed it back onto Liliana's plate. Her favorite clothes were splattered with sauce, but Edgar casually apologized half-heartedly. This infuriated Liliana. Without a word, she forked food from her plate and threw it at Edgar's face. Who knew this kid would nimbly dodge the attack? She originally wanted to pursue an attack, but seeing Leo's haggard expression, Liliana calmed down. She shouldn't bother with the seaweed. Stay calm, empty her thoughts. Be a person who doesn't fight with the world. But then her knee was kicked. Looking up, she found Edgar gone from across the table. He had slipped under the table like an eel and was trampling all over Liliana's beloved skirt. Now she was really angry. After dinner, the sisters urged them to reconcile. "But that guy called me spinach and corn. Those are healthy foods, what's the problem?" The adults completely misunderstood her feelings, but Liliana didn't understand why Edgar was so mean to her. Regina then told the story of Edgar's background. Actually, he was Leo's cousin. Then why do he and Leo have different surnames? That's because his father married Princess Elizabeth and was bestowed with a royal title, but he lost his parents at a young age. Growing up with his brothers wasn't easy. His experience was surprisingly similar to Liliana. After Regina's narration, Liliana finally learned that Edgar had been following Leo since childhood. Perhaps he was worried that she would steal Leo away. Thinking about it this way, Liliana suddenly understood Edgar. After all, if someone took her sisters away, she would probably act like Edgar too. Hearing this, the two sisters suddenly stood up, embracing Liliana from both sides. "Our little baby, you're really too sweet. I'm suffocating, let me go quickly." Even saying this couldn't stop her sister's enthusiasm. After eating snacks, Liliana felt a bit drowsy. She was just about to lie down on the bed for a nice nap when she discovered a large pumpkin. Liliana knew without thinking who had done it. Sure enough, she found Edgar snickering outside the window. This immediately transformed her drowsiness into anger. Liliana furiously opened the window and threw her toy at Edgar. "You're like a fly or a mantis. If I'm a mantis, then you're a gorilla." Hearing this, the enraged Liliana chased frantically after the blonde boy. Liliana really felt like a fool for even trying to understand him. Due to anger and exhaustion, Liliana eventually fell to the ground with a thud. Having lost all means of retaliation, she could only lie on the ground and cry loudly, "Edgar, I hate you." Hearing the commotion, Edgar stopped in his tracks. Just as he was looking smug, Leo appeared behind him with a death stare. The distressed Liliana finally saw her savior. Unexpectedly, faced with Leo's criticism, Edgar showed great resistance. "She hit me first. You called me a short pumpkin first, and you called me seaweed." But as they spoke, Leo embraced Liliana, watching Leo comfort her in a gentle voice. The agitated Edgar suddenly fell silent. When Liliana looked closely, she discovered that the usually mischievous Edgar was about to cry. Liliana didn't understand why, but it felt somehow familiar. When her sister was leaving, she had that same expression, as sad as if she had lost the whole world. She reorganized her feelings. This time, Liliana decided to completely resolve the conflict with Edgar. Who could blame her for being so soft-hearted? If he accepted her prepared gift, he might cry and beg to be her friend. But the enormous palace made Liliana lose her way. "Edgar, where are you anyway?" Finally, Liliana chose to give up and lie down. But coincidentally, voices came from downstairs. Liliana sat up excitedly, only to discover two servants belittling her eldest sister. "These guys are so disrespectful," she was just about to confront them. But a sentence about Marius killing all his brothers made Liliana pause. Later she learned that this cold-blooded emperor held birthday parties for his cousin every year. The one who was born taking his mother's life, hearing someone slandering her beloved eldest sister. The enraged Liliana used a headbutt attack against the rumor mongers. Compared to that annoying blonde boy, these people gossiping behind backs made Liliana even more upset. The offended man gritted his teeth, grabbing Liliana's small hand, and throwing her hard. "You savage from Travaza, how dare you act so violently? Even if you're the sister of His Majesty's fiancé, you need discipline." The man wasn't worried about his actions. As long as no one found out, nobody would believe what a rude child said. Thinking this, he became more unrestrained, raising his hand to strike Liliana. But a shout stopped the man's movement. Liliana looked toward the source of the voice with terror. There she saw blonde Edgar striding toward them. "Is this how you treat guests?" The slanderers, typically bullying the weak and fearing the strong, especially when facing the son of a duke. The man's scolding temper was much harder than his now bent waist. Alice also arrived at this moment, but the servants' eyes showed no repentance, even when directly facing Alice's anger. Their eyes contained only contempt and disdain. "This child suddenly attacked me, so I hit her back. That's because they insulted Edgar and Big Sister. So as adults, aren't you ashamed?" Liliana added at this point, "They even called us savages." Alice had anticipated this situation, but didn't expect it to be so bad. "Thank you, Edgar. Can you take Liliana away first?" After speaking, she left her last smile for them. Edgar obediently took Liliana's small hand. Surprisingly, the two who usually fought got along unexpectedly well. But the good atmosphere didn't last long, as they disagreed on whether Alice or Leo was stronger. The previously friendly atmosphere took a sharp turn, quickly evolving into a tense confrontation. Unexpectedly, Edgar was the first to compromise. After all, Liliana had hit someone, partly to defend him. "Next time, could you think before hitting someone? But they were bad people. They were slandering you behind your back, so they deserved to be hit." This casual sentence from Liliana made the blonde boy blush instantly. You don't need to go that far." Although the two children continued to argue, their relationship had subtly grown closer. The once acerbic blonde boy now clung to Liliana all day. He kept asking why she wouldn't play with him. "If you're willing to be my follower, perhaps I'll agree." Hearing this, Edgar was about to get angry, but seeing Liliana about to leave, he immediately calmed down. "Didn't you want to be my friend before?" Obviously, this boy hadn't realized what annoying things he'd done. "Anyway, you must become my follower." Since he stood up for her last time, this boy had been acting strange, always peeking at her from outside the window and inexplicably blushing. "So, do you not have any friends?" This struck right at the blonde boy's sore spot. He jumped up and defended himself. "What nonsense are you talking about? Of course I have friends." In the end, Liliana had no choice but to give in. "But you must take me to the garden." Soon the two arrived at the entrance of the palace garden. Seeing Liliana's expression, Edgar looked smug. "Look at your inexperienced face," but Liliana had her own interpretation. "Doesn't the garden entrance look like a dragon's cave, with a poor princess imprisoned inside, waiting for the brave hero Liliana to rescue her?" The rigid Edgar naturally lacked such imagination. Liliana grabbed his hand. "Come with me to rescue the princess." Staring at their clasped hands, the boy blushed again. But while Liliana was fantasizing about entering the garden for adventure, a man holding scissors came out. "You can't come in." The reason was that pruning work was being done today. It was very dangerous inside. Considering their safety, they had to abandon their exploration plans. But with Liliana's personality, she could have fun anywhere. Yet Edgar couldn't see the appeal in such childish games. "Then I'll play by myself from now on. Hearing this, the blonde boy panicked and hurriedly joined the playhouse game. His blushing now was purely from embarrassment. Suddenly, Edgar became serious. He mumbled something that Liliana couldn't hear clearly. She had to cup her ears and move closer. After much hesitation, Edgar finally had the courage to ask, "Why did you stand up against the servants for me?" Liliana casually said, "You're an important person, so others can't speak ill of you." Edgar didn't understand what this meant. Liliana explained to him, like parents, but Edgar had no parents. His only relative died after he was born. Feeling the sadness in the air, suddenly Liliana's hair brushed across his face. She had embraced Edgar to comfort him. She and Edgar had similar experiences, but fortunately she had 3 sisters who loved her. But as she mumbled words of comfort, the boy was so nervous he didn't hear a word. Seeing his flushed face, Liliana thought he didn't like hugs. Sure enough, the boy quickly distanced himself from Liliana. Before she could figure out what was happening, the blonde boy fled with a red face. After returning to his room, Leo came to see him. He had also heard about the servant incident, but he wasn't as thoughtful as Regina. Facing Edgar, he didn't know how to comfort him. Surprisingly, the blonde boy asked him directly, "Did my mother regret giving birth to me?" Leo's expression became solemn. "The princess never regretted having you, but she died because of me." Seeing Edgar still troubled by this, Leo felt it necessary to tell those old stories. "Actually, after your father died, the princess's health deteriorated. Everyone thought she wouldn't live long, until news of you came. When the princess learned she was pregnant with you, she had a reason to continue, to ensure your safe birth. She struggled to stay alive, just to see you once when you were born. So she didn't die because of you. On the contrary, you were the princess's hope. It was her pure love that created the miracle of life. In her final moments, she grieved that she couldn't be with you anymore, and desperately entrusted you to Marius. You were never an ill-omened person. You are proof of a miracle, born with incomparable love." After learning his mother's death wasn't his fault, Edgar still cried until his eyes were swollen. But even though it was so obvious, when facing Liliana's inquiries, he remained stubborn. However, his loud talking was noticed by the 2 sisters. But the sisters didn't take the children's quarrels seriously. "It's time to eat. Sit down quickly." As Edgar pulled out a chair, he found it occupied by a stuffed toy. "Get this out of the way quickly." "Why?" "Because I want to sit here." This made Liliana very confused. With so many seats, why did this boy insist on sitting next to her? "This is Cookie's seat, you go opposite, it can't eat anyway." "It's still more important than you." The blonde boy couldn't take this. In Liliana's disbelieving gaze, he gave the toy a knock on the head. Then, without giving Liliana time to react, sat opposite with an unyielding expression. Fortunately, their argument stopped when the food arrived, and the dining atmosphere remained colorful as always. Big sister's coldness and second sister's ambiguity left her, usually the focus of dinner conversation, on the sidelines. Luckily, Marius noticed Liliana's sighs. He first apologized to Liliana and Edgar for the servant's behavior, but neither of the children took it to heart. "Although I'm very angry, as a hero, I must be kind and merciful. Unlike certain people who promise to play games but run away midway." Edgar explained that it wasn't running away, but he didn't know how to express his feelings of attraction. Only you would play such childish playhouse. These words unfairly angered Liliana. For this repeatedly erring boy, she decided to ignore him completely. Unexpectedly, this boy became even more presumptuous. Liliana didn't want to indulge him for a moment. The two's argument turned the mansion upside down. But in the end, they fell asleep together, all dirty, with them finally quiet. The adults had time to talk. The primary concern was still that people here couldn't accept them. This wasn't much to Alice, but she didn't want it to affect Liliana. Marius sat beside Liliana, looking at the family entrusted to him by his old friend. His eyes became particularly determined. "I may not be able to stop all rumors." Alice could understand. In her position, she had a responsibility to prove herself. But Marius hadn't finished. "But please rest assured, I will protect you as I would protect Liliana." Leo and Regina, the young couple, finally went on a date. But they were still as shy as ever, not daring to maintain eye contact for too long. Fortunately, Regina was quite proactive. She waved for Leo to come closer. Regina took the opportunity to stand on tiptoe and whisper in his ear. But before she could speak, Leo became as hot as a ripe tomato. But just as the atmosphere between them was warming up, Emilia appeared at an inopportune moment. She appeared disheveled. Facing Regina's inquiry, she just took out several bags. She was collecting materials for her research. But the sisters, who usually shared everything, because of their argument on the boat last time, the atmosphere now felt very awkward. Emilia opened the pocket watch on her chest, then spoke to Leo. "I'll take Regina away for a moment." Leo, though disappointed, couldn't refuse. Ensuring they were alone, Emilia told her Leo was a duke, suggesting Regina think carefully before dating. This immediately ignited both their emotions. Your relationship could involve politics. This would trouble Big Sister. Moreover, you naturally possess the ability to control hearts. Have you forgotten those who learned the truth? They all doubted you used magic on them, believing falling in love with you was due to enchantment. Finally, as a tear fell, Regina no longer argued as before, because everything Amelia said was true, but she herself just wanted a simple romance. Amelia also realized her words were inappropriate, but she really couldn't bear to see Regina hurt again. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. She could only pray Leo wasn't like the others, and coincidentally, Leo appeared at this moment, ending their conversation. Amelia turned around, her expression showing resolution. "You came at the right time. I'll return Regina to you now." Saying this, Amelia left with a graceful exit. In the end, she chose to trust Regina. Even if the outcome might still be disappointing, she decided to respect her family's choice. This time, Regina smiled particularly happily. She had resolved the estrangement with Amelia, and her beloved was right before her. True friends don't stay angry overnight. Yesterday they were at odds. Today they could hold hands and play games. Hearing the garden maintenance was complete, Edgar pulled Liliana to visit, only to be disappointed again. Because they were planting flowers, it was still closed to visitors. When Liliana asked when it would be available, the other party stammered without giving an answer. Being rejected again made Liliana very disappointed. But these negative emotions could only affect her briefly. Edgar thought of a better place at this point, solemnly promising Liliana would definitely like it there. But this boy only cared about his own pace, completely ignoring the physically exhausted Liliana. Moreover, Edgar held her hand too tightly, hurting her. "Let's walk instead. I really don't know what to do with you." On the way, Edgar asked, "Why are you so obsessed with being a hero?" Of course, because heroes are strong and can protect others. But when Edgar asked who she wanted to protect, Liliana had no answer. Perhaps she wanted to become someone like her big sister. After all, Alicia looked cool defeating villains. "So why would you do this? In 10 years you'll see how amazing I am." While they were bantering, they arrived at their destination. The towering tower made the two seem even smaller. Edgar introduced it on his own, not noticing Liliana's unusual reaction. Because this tower before them was exactly where Liliana had been imprisoned in her memory. Cassell's crazy behavior was vivid in her mind. In an instant, Liliana felt as if all her strength had been drained. Edgar beside her was frightened and panicked, loudly calling her name. But Liliana was too nervous to say a word. Only now did she belatedly realize why she hadn't dreamed of the ending. Perhaps from the moment of being imprisoned by Castle, her fate had come to an end. After seeing the western tower that had imprisoned her in her dream, Liliana fell severely ill. At night she saw Cassell visiting quietly. He talked with Amelia for a long time. The next day her illness was under control. Big Sister told her she couldn't go out to play during this time. Liliana felt very wronged after hearing this. It wasn't like she wanted to faint, but her sisters never told her what illness she had. Each time she could only feel sad for her sister's haggard appearance. "Liliana, what are you sighing about again?" Alicia explained the reason. "You must think the vegetables are pitiful and don't want to eat them, right?" Just then there was a knock at the door. Liliana expectantly let the person in. The door slowly opened, revealing Edgar. He jumped onto Liliana's bed, anxiously inquiring about her health. "Didn't they say you were better? Why is your face still so pale? This is just my skin tone." Saying this, Edgar offered an olive branch. "This is a recovery gift for you. Since we can't go to the garden, I bought some for you." While the two children were laughing, Regina sensed something was wrong. "You said you can't enter the garden?" Liliana then told them about their experience. This made the two sisters furrow their brows. Seeing this, Edgar became very worried. "Is my gift not good?" "No, I'm just curious about the garden. After all, I was there a few days ago." Soon after, Alice arrived at the palace with a fierce aura. Under the shocked gaze of the guards, the inward opening door was forcibly pulled open from outside. The commotion interrupted the two people conversing inside. Seeing the silent Alice, Marius was about to exchange pleasantries, but Alice suddenly raised her fist and slammed it onto the table. For a moment, only deafening echoes remained in the room. The sound of breaking followed. Alice had, with one punch, split the wooden desk in half. The usually composed big sister split the Emperor's desk with one slap right in front of him. Cassell was already trembling from this display when Alice proposed to speak with the Emperor alone. He felt greatly relieved. But Marius, looking at the desk remains, wasn't angry. "Actually, I've been wanting to replace this desk." Despite Alice's fierce approach, Marius's innate calmness always prevailed. This all stemmed from his desperate journey to the throne. After his mother's death, the Emperor married a new empress who bore 3 children. However, Queen Rosalind and her eldest son Lucas usurped the throne. Unfortunately, the plan was exposed, and both were beheaded as a warning. The second prince blamed everything on Marius. In his narrow understanding, someone had to bear the responsibility. Former good brothers now met with weapons. Marius deeply experienced the curse of power. Later, he poured all his love into Edgar, but feared being hurt again, so also kept his distance. So in the face of life's ups and downs, Alicia's anger seemed like child's play. Looking at this kind face, Alicia immediately calmed down. She hoped to gain power to ensure her family's safety. Marius readily agreed to this. Meanwhile, in Alicia's room, Liliana was no longer afraid of Kessel. She even shyly thanked him for healing her. "I'm completely recovered now. Even so, you must drink the potion. Can't I pretend to drink it or replace it with grape juice?" But Kessel's attitude was very firm. "Only this way can you grow up healthy." But Liliana, who had already foreseen her fate, couldn't help asking, "Will I really live to grow up?" Hearing this, a flash of panic crossed Kessel's eyes. But Liliana had been plagued by illness for so long, it wasn't strange for her to think this way. Soon Kessel gathered the sisters and announced a bombshell. They had found the cause of Liliana's illness. Unfortunately, this wasn't an ordinary immune disease, and there was no cure. Hearing this, Alicia's teacup shattered in her hand, the sharpness in her eyes clearly visible. "You'd better be responsible for what you say." It turned out that children from Travatsa all suffer from this disease at a certain age. If they recover, nothing happens. Otherwise, they die in despair under the torture of the disease. This is the awakening fever that occurs at age 14. Alicia's awakened power was also thanks to this. But Liliana, who wasn't of age yet, was suffering from awakening fever. Her body simply couldn't withstand it, which was why she had a fever. Learning this was the cause that had long tormented Liliana. Alicia bit her lower lip. "You're the top in research. Kessel is a magic master. I'm powerless now. But I believe you can do it." Emilia had received countless praises from outside, but they all seemed less significant than this recognition from her sister. "Don't worry. Liliana will definitely grow up safely and healthily. After all, this was also their wish." "Why are you interfering?" "Because she mentioned me too." A few days later, the mansion's maids were replaced. They were 100 times more enthusiastic than before. They took care of Liliana meticulously, even wanting to help with small things like putting on shoes. Just then, Edgar pushed the door open. "Liliana, how much longer?" The impatient blonde boy rushed in. He grabbed Liliana's other shoe that wasn't on yet, then lifted Liliana's foot. How can putting on shoes take so long? This boy was still as unreasonable as ever. But Liliana could understand. After all, today was Knight's visit day. "Isn't my brother handsome? Look at your infatuated face." In terms of infatuation, who could compare to Regina? The Imperial Knights were neatly arranged. Their handsome appearance made even Edgar forget his expression management. Alicia thought the array was too grand, but this was preparation for the national marriage. Suddenly, Liliana was overshadowed. A 2-meter-tall man appeared before her. "Nice to meet you, I'm Derek." Alicia also introduced her family, but the other's words were barbed. "This place isn't like Travatsa. You probably find it hard to adapt here." Learning Alicia had also served in the National Guard, Derek scoffed dismissively. "How can women do knight's work? Clerical work should be more suitable." Those familiar with Alicia, hearing this, were too frightened to breathe. Although Alicia didn't explode, her anger was clearly visible. "Why don't we have a knight's duel later? How can that be? You're the future empress and a woman. You can rest assured, on the battlefield there's no distinction between men and women." Liliana asked Regina with feigned ignorance. "Who's stronger, big sister or him?" "Alicia can defeat anyone." Both Liliana and Edgar were excited about this duel. This left Derek, who thought the match had no suspense, confused. "Knight Derek, I hope you won't lose too badly in the upcoming duel." The inexperienced blonde boy was curious how strong Liliana could be. Simply put, wherever Sister goes, bandits are terrified. In the original story, Sister did die, but that was because she sacrificed her life to save young soldiers. Without such tragedy, she would undoubtedly be the strongest. "So you firmly believe your sister will win? Is that even a question?" After a moment of silence, Liliana burst out shrilly. "Uncle, why did you come?" "Of course, because I missed you." Watching the Emperor chatting enthusiastically with Liliana and the others, Edgar's expression looked particularly lonely. Regina hugged Liliana. Marius also tactfully didn't disturb the sisters' time, but ignored Edgar's feelings. Both sides on the arena selected suitable swords. Derek looked disdainful, still mocking Alicia for being a woman unworthy to be his opponent. But Alicia just held the sword, feeling that familiar sensation once more. Her aura rose with the falling sword cry. Leo called start. Alicia suddenly stepped forward, quick but not lacking grace. Every difficult-to-parry sword technique was accompanied by Alicia's casual ease. A flexible bend and swing of the sword had already determined the outcome of this match. But the previous taunts had backfired on Derek's pride. He began to attack Alish recklessly, but when his sword was raised high, the duel no longer had any suspense. Alish finally ended the match with an overwhelming victory. The venue erupted with intense cheers. Marius applauded repeatedly, and she responded to all of Derek's previous mockery. With a simple "that was an excellent duel," Liliana was still looking smug, but turning around she found Edgar had disappeared. When she finally found him, he was looking at Alish with admiration, even wanting to change his idol from Leo to Big Sister. But when Leo intended to discuss this harmonious scene, the other's eyes revealed an unprecedented coldness. In the evening, Alish went to find Edgar, but no one came to open the door for a long time. Liliana had to open the door and go in, only to see Edgar lying on the bed secretly sobbing. This frightened Liliana. "Did someone hit you, or did something happen?" Liliana crawled under the covers, repeating the words her sister used to comfort her. "Do you want me to blow on the painful spot or call a doctor?" Then Edgar spoke intermittently. "I hate Brother Marius." He poured all his love into Edgar, but also maintained an unbridgeable distance. Marius didn't want to end up fighting the child he raised with love. He also lacked confidence to endure betrayal twice. Leo really couldn't stand this restrained love. He advised him to forget past events, but the past had already left an indelible mark on his heart. Edgar outside the door heard all the conversation, although he wasn't clear about the specific details. "But I know Brother Marius seems to dislike me." "Don't tell anyone I cried today," Liliana quickly agreed. That he was still concerned about his cool image at this moment, Liliana hadn't expected, but being disliked by one's brother, Liliana could empathize. She tightly hugged Edgar. "You must feel very bad. Brother Andrea also left because I was troublesome. Every time I write to him, he only replies perfunctorily." For these two parentless children, siblings had already replaced the roles of fathers and mothers. Andrea would substitute for father at his kindergarten activities, would share an umbrella to observe snails on rainy days. The warmth from his back as he held her reading fairy tales had always been what Liliana yearned for. Andrea might not be a father, but his dedication had already surpassed what a father could give. So Liliana particularly understood the feeling of being disliked by a brother. Tears unconsciously slid from the corners of her eyes. The two confided their pasts to each other, as if this could heal each other. Meanwhile, Leo had just had a big fight with Marius, and now even worse news awaited him. He pushed open the door, finding Regina had been waiting for some time. This made Leo sweep away his gloom. But this time Regina's expression was somewhat serious, lacking the usual ambiguity, with more distance that lacked warmth. Leo could sense this. He unnaturally proposed a weekend concert, but Regina went straight to the point, her eyes showing long hesitation. "Mr. Leo, I've thought for a long time. Let's just stop here." What should have been a lively happy birthday party, but the host's face was more gloomy than anyone, like someone owed them millions. Negative emotions spread like a tide to every corner, making even the usually optimistic Liliana unable to bear it. Could it be because she forgot to bring Edgar a gift? But what about Uncle Leo? His gaze toward her sister showed restraint. The two looked completely like strangers. Just yesterday, Leo had tried his best to salvage the relationship, but Regina came to the negotiation with her answer already decided. Not to mention their relationship involving political stance. Just her ability to bewitch hearts was enough to destroy this relationship. Previous followers, upon discovery, would all leave her, so no matter how Leo tried to retain her, even saying he could give up all rights and property, he couldn't shake Regina's determination to break up. Liliana still didn't know what had happened. Edgar had already adjusted his state. The reason his emotions could quickly change from cloudy to sunny was because better people waited him. Watching Liliana twirl lightly in her dress, Edgar was momentarily entranced. "You're like a squirrel." I mean, a squirrel that looks like a pumpkin. Indeed, the two couldn't be harmonious for more than 3 seconds. But Liliana remembered it was his birthday, so she chose not to argue with him. The door was opened at this moment. Marius walked into the banquet hall holding Alicia's hand. Everyone's gaze gathered involuntarily. This world-stunning sight made Liliana want to share. But the other's response was particularly cold. It seemed the previous words of Marius still bothered him. Unaware of this, Marius greeted him with a smile. But at this moment, Edgar no longer wanted to say a word to him. "Your Majesty, I heard your conversation with Leo." This made the usually calm Marius lose his composure. Edgar didn't give him a chance to speak. He took Liliana and left, although she could only see Edgar's back. Liliana knew he must be very upset. She wanted to say something comforting, but just as she opened her mouth, a discordant voice came from behind. The source was a red-haired girl with a coward following her. The other rudely said, "I heard people from Travatsa eat humans. Is that true?"